You all be very welcome to this space. I'm super happy to present you today this new practicing transition contribution related with nature and human conversations. My name is Anaí Beatriz Pacheco, and I am part of Practicing Transition team. And I want to share a little bit about the project with you. We're part of Transition Movement, and we have been experimenting for more than 18 years now on how to bring initiatives and lead in positive change. We have learned a lot from our mistakes and our success. And we became very curious about what approaches and practices or local contexts enable transition activities and groups to continue to thrive. So we're experimenting with these practices. A practice of change is something very tangible, a set of practical approaches or activities that we have experienced as creating the change in the world we want to see. And we have practiced them and see the difference between them when we are doing this practice. And I'm super happy to see some known faces and new faces, and want to introduce you to our speakers of today, that is Martina and Dorotea from Italy. Martina is a group facilitator and participation expert, co-founder of La Próxima Cultura, which explores how system thinking, deep ecology, and facilitation are shaping a new and emergent culture. And Dorotea is a group facilitator in training and had dedicated all her life to participating and contributing in movements for social and environmental justice and in collective life projects. And together with Dorotea is also collaborating with La Próxima Cultura. So, queridas, you are super welcome. The space is yours, and I'm here to support you in any need.
Oh, thank you very much, Anaí. Thank you all of you for being here. And yes, today we will host this webinar about trying to answer this question: how can we bring the voice of non-human beings into collective deliberation or collective decision making? And we will share a few ideas and examples. We will do a practice together and then collect some of your reflections and feedbacks, because this is a field of facilitation, I would say, that is still under, we're still experimenting and trying to find what is the best way to do that. But there are already some experiences and experiments that I will try to share.
Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. I just arrived, so I'm also landing with you in the space. And I'm very grateful that I can be here supporting Martina for this session.
And before diving deep into this topic that for us is very fascinating, we would like to have a little bit of an opening together. So our invitation will be to take 1-2 minutes of landing here, of grounding, so to prepare ourselves for this experience together. And then we would like to hear your names and where you come from, because we know that in these webinars there are always many people from many different parts of the world. So we are curious to know who is here with us today. Thank you very much for this first round and to share all the different feelings and needs that we have. I guess that if you are here and you know about transition movement and you know about climate and ecological crisis that we are in, so I'm not going to talk about that because I assume that you already are familiar with all those topics. But and in any case, if you have any kind of questions, please post them in the chat or raise your hand. But we start from this reality of living in a moment of climate crisis, ecological crisis, social crisis. And one of the many responses to this crisis is also thinking, what are the underlying cultural causes of the situations we are in right now? And one possible answer is that, okay, maybe in the Western culture that is predominantly based on the industrial growth, the exploitation of resources, the exploitation of other people, etc. Maybe in this culture, we have a relationship with nature that is giving or creating the conditions for all this situation to happen. Because it is a relationship of separation, of seeing and perceiving nature as a set of resources that we can exploit, etc. So one possible answer is, let's change our relationship with nature. Let's see what are other ways of relating to the natural world. And I know that the word nature per se might be come from a certain culture, but anyways, how do we relate as human beings and in the society and in the cultural background that we have grown into? How do we relate with nature? And there is this idea of recognizing the connection that we have as human beings with nature, and to find ways that we can embody this interconnection and create institutions, decisions, ways of being, an economic system, etc. That is like a reflection of this interdependence that we have with nature. And what I have here in this slide is something that is really interesting for me, because this idea of changing our relationship with nature and the culture that is behind us is not only anymore something that environmental movements advocate, but it's something that is starting to be part of the institutions as well. So this is a screenshot from a website. This is a briefing from the European Environment Agency. And this is only a screenshot of like the homepage of this website. But if you read through this briefing, you will read lots of ideas that go into this direction of finding new ways of relating with nature that go beyond the so-called Anthropocene. And this is very interesting for me, because this is an idea that is slowly coming to a wider awareness, not only in the environmental movements, not only in the transition sphere, let's say. So how do we change this relationship with nature? It is, of course, something that is very complex and deep, because it's something that is related to the culture that I personally have known since the day of my birth, and that maybe many people here share, this culture of being separate from nature. And there are like different worldviews or disciplines or approaches that can help us change this way of relating to nature. One of them is deep ecology, for example. There is also the work that reconnects, and there are many thinkers that are starting to challenge the cultural basis that underpin the industrial growth society, and also many like experiments and practical things, also in the field of deliberative democracy. That it's something that I will talk to you in a moment. And the basic idea that for me and for us underpins this cultural change is the idea that we can shift the perception of ourselves, not just as individual selves, but as like wider selves. And This idea is called the ecological self. Maybe it's something that you are already familiar with. It's a concept that comes from deep ecology, and also in the work that Reconnects is a central part. We sometimes use this expression, the collective self, with this idea that it's not just us as individuals, but it's something more collective that we can have access to. So you can see we have this representation. It's like layers of identity that we can explore. We have the individual self, and it's the layer of identity that is the most familiar for us, because it's what we perceive in our skin. Is something I cannot explain what the self is. I'm not a psychologist, so I cannot explain that. But it's something that I perceive when I look at myself in the mirror. I know that it's me, and I feel very familiar with this perception of being an individual, being myself. And at the same time, I'm also part of a community. I'm also part of a family. I'm also part of groups. And I have an influence from them, and I influence those communities, those groups and family that I'm part of. So in some ways they are me, and I am part of them. And the same goes with society or with humanity as a whole. It's something that I can be part of, and that somehow is part of myself as well. And we can also do the last step, let's say, and perceive a belonging or being part of ecosystems and nature or life in general. But of course, those are like layers that we can explore and need some time to explore. But for me, the metaphor is the same of a house. So I can feel myself at home. For example, here I am at home, and I feel at home in like this block of concrete and whatever it is. But I can also feel at home in the streets or in the squares of my city, and I can feel at home in the woods and in the mountains that surround this place. So it's not deleting the individual self, but is like widening the perspective that we can have. And for me, this is the key concept that underpins all the experiments and the activities that we can do. And this is why we can somehow bring in the voices of nature or more than human beings, because somehow we are connected with them, and we can, I mean, there is a space also for that to happen. So this is what I was saying before. The sources and the inspiration for this kind of activity come from the deep ecology, the work at Reconnects, that is a specific set of practices and facilitation methodologies that is used to try and perceive more that interconnection with other people, with ourselves, with nature. And there's also something very interesting that is happening in the field of deliberative democracy. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's a way of involving people and citizens into making decisions for the collective issues that we are facing. And there are some practices and initiatives that go into that direction. So I have just an example for you. Recently, in April, in Barcelona, there has been a citizens' assembly on the future of the oceans. And in that assembly, the voice of the ocean was brought in for the citizens to take into consideration when deliberating on what would be the best course of action or the best recommendations for politicians. So this is something that is already happening in some fields, and of course, at the same time, it's something that we still need to explore more and to talk about. So I'm very happy to be able today to have this experience with you. So that's it. my side, because I just wanted to give you some ideas, some key ideas. But I would like to, and we would like to have an experience with you. So if you're up for that, I will, yes, let's go through this transition to the activity. I see, is that a question, Michael?
I was going to tell a story, very short.
Very short, yeah.
That's directly related to what you were talking about. This couple of years ago, I was trying to do the same thing and figuring out ways that we can better relate to the area around us that we take for granted. And there's an exercise we use within design thinking is called an empathy map, where we try to figure out, so how is the other person thinking? What are they feeling? Where are they getting their influences, and how do they manage it today? So I thought it would be an interesting exercise to try the same tool with either a river or a tree or a mountain. And it was a very lightening experience because it allowed me to see things from a different perspective. And it was very funny because I was talking to a good friend of mine who's actually with us here today, Renia, and I explained this to Renia, and I said, Mike, you didn't invent anything. You're just taking indigenous wisdom again. That was my story.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
And this is what we are going to do today. It's not the empathy map. It's another way of doing that. So it's very connected to what you were saying. And the idea is to try and explore those different layers of identity that I showed you before, and see what happens when we try to apply that to a specific issue or to a specific question that we might have. So this is what I wanted to propose to you. And the idea is to, the inspiration comes from the work that reconnects. I have a book here, but maybe it's something that we're already familiar with. And it is an exercise that allows participants to explore those layers of identity, but it's a bit different. I have adapted it, so we could use it to in this context and with a specific topic. But yes, the basic idea is let's go and see what happens if we take another perspective and bring that perspective to a conversation, to a discussion. So that said, I think that we can go into that. We'll do this exercise. Dorothea will be taking notes so that we can also have a summary at the end. And I think that could be useful. Okay, so we're going to do this exercise. My invitation would be to do it standing, if you can, if you are in a situation that you feel comfortable, if your body allows you to stand for some time. We're going also to move a little bit. We're not going to be standing for 40 minutes. And at any moment, if you need to sit down or to find a comfortable place, please do it and take care of the needs that you might have. I'm going to move as well in a more comfortable place for me. Okay. Because as we are going to explore different layers of identity, that is that we can also move through those layers, and also our bodies will help us in explore those different perspectives. You can also turn off your camera if you feel more comfortable. Just do as you feel that, just do what will make you feel comfortable in doing the exercise. Okay. And the first invitation is to think about the place where you live. It might be the city that you live in, or your neighborhood, or maybe you live in a rural area, so maybe it's more a bioregion or something like that. It's a physical place, and also the community that lives in that place. maybe for some of us, it might be difficult to identify a place, maybe because you are changing, or there's a moment of change in your lives, or maybe because you live in different places, I don't know. In that case, just choose a place that you know well, okay? Or a community that you belong to, or some places that you know. Because why I'm asking this? Because the idea is to explore how climate change and the ecological crisis affect that place where you live in or that you are choosing. And the question that we will keep in our minds for the whole exercise is, what are the priorities or the priority actions, or what is the most important thing in that specific place or in that specific community to address the climate and ecological crisis and to make this place the most resilient possible, a place that can sustain life. So our question is, what are the priorities for dealing with climate change and ecological crisis in that specific place where you live or that you choose in this moment? And we will try to answer this question from different perspectives, exploring those layers of the ecological self that we talked about earlier. And we will start from our own perspective, from the individual self, let's say the most familiar one, maybe. So my invitation is now to take a few seconds. You are standing in your place. This is the place of your individual self, yourself. And let's take some moments. The invitation is also to give some attention to our bodies, because sometimes there is useful information that comes from not only from the rational mind, but also from the body. So let's keep this question in your mind. What are your priorities? What is important for you to do to address the climate change and ecological crisis in the place where you live? And before answering, I invite you to listen to your body as well, to take a few moments so that what is really important for you can emerge somehow. Maybe there is also some movements or an image that comes to your mind. What is important for you? What is really dear to your heart? Something that for you is the most important priority for the place that you live in and the community that you are part of. Maybe if you have an image or feeling or sensation in your body. Let's take a few moments to give words to that. So let's, for the time being, in your minds, in silence, let's try and give words to that. What is that is so important for you and for the place that you live in. And let's slowly come back. And hopefully, so with the help of your body, you have identified something that is really, really important for you. And let's come back to this meeting. And I would like to listen to 2 or 3 voices or something that is important for you. And maybe the other people can also write in the chat. We can also use that channel to share. So I invite, if you want to share what is important for you, you can raise your hand and we can listen. Let's see if there's anyone who wants to share what is important for you and for the place you live in and the community that you are part of. Renia.
I'm actually right now engaged in helping to protect a parcel of land that's been slated for development. It has 16 mature and protected butternut trees on it that the developer wants to cut down. So I'm involved in a community action around that because trees are extremely important to me. And what I feel is important is giving people the courage to engage, to go into our municipal places of administration and so forth, and really be heard. A lot of people do not like public speaking, and it's an extremely important thing to take a stand and to give voice to why we're doing that, because nature can't speak for itself, so we have to do that. That's our human responsibility.
Thank you, Renia. So protecting this land and giving people the courage to speak up,
Yeah,
and participate. Thank you very much. Let's see if there's maybe another person that wants to share something that is happening in your place and in the area that you live in. For you is important. Let's see. Michael.
We cannot hear you, Michael.
There we go. A little bit better. Yeah. Okay, great.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Where I live, we've gone through a lot of changes. I live in Vienna, and in my district, we have a number of newcomers, and we don't do a very good job of making people feel at home. And this is something that I felt for a long time, something I need to work on. And I'm slowly getting closer, slowly. And apart from giving people the opportunity just to speak, the goal that I have is posing the question, so how do you see this area, instead of me trying to possibly imposing something that they may or may not see as part of themselves, but rather taking it the other way around, allowing for people to share their experiences, share their their thoughts, their hopes, and perhaps acting as a mirror and showing it back to them.
Thank you very much. So how to engage and relate with and welcome other people. And I also see some messages in the chat about human feeling of belonging, the well-being of all, making places for water and the life besides human beings, being still, that comes from Pam. A lot of distress in response to a situation. Yeah, thank you for sharing this first perspective, and keep that in some parts of your minds, that because it will be useful for us later. Yeah, I want where I live to be comfortable without fossil fuels. Thank you, Sophie. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, definitely we have a perspective as individuals for ourselves. We see what is happening in the place where we live or the places that we know, and there is something that comes to our minds. And now my invitation would be to explore another layer of identity, still a human one. And it will be the perspective of a person in your community that lives in your same place, who thinks very differently from you, maybe even opposite from you. Maybe you have a specific person in mind, maybe not. Maybe you know some groups or some parts of your community that have different perspectives. But my invitation now would be to explore that layer. And I know that it might be difficult, so let's go slowly. But again, the invitation would be to ask the help of our bodies to do that. So if you feel comfortable to do so, my invitation is to stand up and to take a step and to go physically in a different position than you were before. If you prefer to sit down, try to find a gesture or something that for you can mark this change of identity, so that you are more comfortable sitting, but there is something that marks this change. So if you take a physical step, and we are now in this different identity, into this new layer of identity, let's step into it. Let's take a few moments to enter into this new identity. And again, let's take a few moments and focus on our bodies. If it's difficult for you, don't force it. You can always step back into your individual identity and then try and step again into this new identity of a person that has a very different opinion than your individual self. And let's focus on our bodies again and try to feel in your body how it is to be this person. What is the posture? Maybe there is a gesture that you do, a way of moving. Maybe there's a movement that can go with this new identity. How do you feel in here? And let's take a few moments to really be in that position, be in that layer of identity. if you have found a posture or a gesture, a way of moving, maybe try to make it bigger or more intense. Maybe even a little bit bigger. And try to really be that person in that position. What is important for you? What is something that you see is important for your community, for the place you live in? And let's see if there is an answer, an image. And let's take a few more moments. See, or to become aware of what is really, really important for you, for your community. Again, from this perspective, I invite you to open your eyes if your eyes are closed. And I would like to invite 2 or 3 people to share what is important for you. From this perspective. Would like to hear a couple of voices, but you can also share in the chat. Eva.
Hi. Yeah, I found it hard to settle on one person. I was switching between a couple, I think. One of them was somebody who had a lot less sense of their own power than I do.
Eva, can you speak in first person? So I have a sense of less power.
I have very little sense that I have any power or any right to any power. I don't think that I can change anything. And climate change feels like just one more thing to worry about on top of lots and lots of other things that I have to worry about. When I think about my community, I don't think that I have any right or ability to think about what my community needs. But I think maybe we need more parking spaces so that people can visit local businesses and use the shops, because that's good for the local economy.
Thank you. So yeah, I don't know if I have the power to change things, and the local economy is also important. Anyone else wants to share? Yes, Sophie.
I feel very powerful, and I just want to make sure there's enough water for the intensive agriculture that I'm having here, which is my business.
Yeah, thank you. There's livelihoods as well to be taken into account. Anyone else? Yes, Anna.
I have worked all my life in the fields. I belong to an evangelic religion, and I believe that, yeah, they have teach me that devil is in nature. So I put all my energy in working for the living of my family.
Yeah, I need to work. I need to support the living of my family. Anyone else that wants to share? See. Yes.
I too jump from person to person, and so one I'll settle on is I need everything to be very clean and tidy. I don't like natural things, so I've put artificial grass in front of my house, and I sweep it at least once a week with a brush. Yeah, it just bothers me when plants grow where they're not supposed to be. And I also have a thing that makes a noise that keeps the cats and birds off of my artificial grass. That's the person I settled on.
Yeah, let's keep the first person. I want to see that my garden, my house, my surroundings are clean and tidy.
Yeah,
and I
sorry.
don't like, yeah, no worries. I don't
That's probably all I could say from her voice. So yeah,
yeah,
I want to keep everything tidy.
Yeah, tidy and clean. Thank you. And I saw Karina, you had your hand up. I don't know if you want to share.
Sorry. Let's see. Okay. Okay, there you go. There you are. So apologies, I'm joining in the conversation. I had issues trying to log into the chat. But if I understand correctly, we are trying to speak about a challenge that we have when it comes with another person, correct?
Yes, the question was, let's think of our community or the place we live in, and what are the priorities or the most important things when it comes to climate change and ecological crisis. And we are now from a perspective of a person that thinks in a different way from our individual selves or our perspective.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to double check I understood correct. So I considered okay, so I considered or feel that talking about nature as if as a conversation that could enter in every single room. So when I'm talking about, especially when it comes to transformational change or plans, because I work with community action plans, etc. So when I hear nature as something with more power than I'm used to see, which means it's my resource, it's a resource that I should be able to use I'm entitled to. I mean, I'm entitled to the beauty. I'm entitled to all those things. I'm a human being, so I'm entitled to that. So when somebody comes and speaks to me that I should be more mindful, or perhaps even respectful, or even consider sacred some of these resources, then I don't know what world this person lives in. I mean, why this is not life. This is our life is different. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Karina. Let's listen to Clara and then let's go a step forward. Yes, Clara.
I think how you talk about the sacredness of nature and of water is deeply disrespectful of God, the maker who made everything for us. And I think you're dabbling. Sorry, this isn't me. This is
Yeah, let's stay there. I think this is disrespectful to God and to religion.
Yeah,
So
to the creator who made us in his own image. And you're dabbling in the occult. Basically, you can't talk about sacredness, the sacredness of water and other living things, because it is God who created it. No.
Thank you for those contributions.
Makes me so sad.
Yeah. What makes you sad, Clara? Yeah. Yes, of course, there might be different emotions in like listening to the different parts. And yeah, they are also precious and important. And let's keep them. They are part of all the layers that we are exploring. And I wanted also to read in the chat, there's also, no, I want to enjoy my retirement and fly somewhere hot every year, more than once if I can, because I deserve it. Climate change is inevitable, not up to me. So this is another layer that is present. And now my invitation would be to explore another one. It is still a human one. Then we will go to non-humans, but for the time being, let's still keep in the human dimension. So again, I will invite you to stand up, and from this layer of identity, let's take another step again to another layer. So physically moving to another layer. And this time it is the perspective of the society or the communities that surround the place you live, or the community that you are part of. Someone that is outside and looks from outside to your community, to the place that you live in. So maybe has a different perspective, still human, but a more, let's say, maybe a social perspective to what is happening in your community and what is important. So again, let's take a few moments in our bodies so that we can take on this new identity. And you might think of a person or maybe a more general perspective, and try and feel how it feels like to be in that position outside your community, to be part of the society that looks at what is happening there. How does it feel in your body? What is the posture that you have? Maybe there is a movement or a gesture that for you is part of this identity. you are in that posture or in that movement, try and make it bigger, maybe more intense. And again, let's make it even bigger, even more intense, so that you can feel it completely in your body. Again, feel if there's any sensation that comes up, or maybe an image or sound even. Express what is important for you. Maybe if there's an image or a feeling, sensation, let's take a few moments to put that into words. What would you like to say to the people who live in that area, in that city? What is important for you? What would you like to share with them on dealing with the climate and ecological crisis? And again, slowly, I invite you to come back, to open your eyes. And we are still in this position of a person or a perspective that is outside of your community and looks at your community from the outside. And yes, let's see if there's anyone who wants to share. And I invite you to speak in first person, as in this position of being outside. Karina, yes.
I suppose it's because I've been feeling this actually. I am from Peru, and I am from the Sacred Palace of the Incas, and I visited recently my community, and I had this message that, or feeling, or message, I suppose, is quite loud, and it feels very in my chest, which I think could also apply to my community in Aberdeen. So basically, I have the feeling that I would like to say that we have been lied, that it has been a lie. It's been full of lies, the message around us needing to be rich in items, rich in, to have houses, to have access to what we perceive wealth. It's a lie, that the real richness, we always had it. And I am not sure we are being able to see it and care for it. I think it's slipping away. In the simple, in living with our family in safety, and maybe enjoying a walk and just enjoying our relationship, the relationship we have with our lands. I think it was a lie. We have believed and are still trying to work towards this perceived happy future. So the perception of this is a happy life, I think, I don't know, I feel like screaming, saying, can we just wake up?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Karina. Anaí.
Yeah, this new identity comes like a we. Like we can keep these people with very little education. So they just work for us without reflecting much in their possibility of freedom. We can also control the social media to make them think whatever we want them to think and to focus in 2 or 3 basic stuff. We cannot allow this new rebellious thinking of them having some power of decision. Yeah. And for me, it felt a lot of pain with
Yes. There is also pain, also in this identity. Anyone else? You can listen to one more voice, or you can also share in the chat if you want to share something. Michael, yes.
I'll give it a go. And so I'm just to make sure I got it right. I emulating the persona that is being addressed. Okay.
Yes, you are that person in this moment. Yeah.
I've lived here all of my life. This is my community. The others, the people that have come here, I don't care where they come from, whether they're coming from the countryside or they're coming from a different country, doesn't belong to them. It belongs to me. And I have the feeling that I'm not being listened to. They have to get with the program. I was here first. They need to listen to me. And because I have the feeling that my voice doesn't matter, right? My voice doesn't matter. That at this point, I have nothing to lose. I have nothing to lose. So if it's a case of where we need to burn the community down, we're going to burn it down. We're going to burn it down because I'd rather have that than to live in a situation where my voice isn't taken seriously.
Thank you for this voice. And I will add the voice that is in the chat. We're very frightened about the future. We have no idea what to do about it. We see our politicians making things worse, and we think maybe they just need someone stronger to force them to do what's right. So, yeah, we've heard some voices here, in the society part, let's say, or looking outside, from the outside to your communities. And yeah, there were different voices in here as well. And yeah, that's the last one. You live somewhere beautiful and you should be willing to share it with as many other people as we can fit into your fields and woods. Humans come first. This is another voice. Thank you. And yes, I think that now it's a good moment to prepare to enter into this final layer of identity that we will explore for today. There might be many more. So we're going to enter into a layer of identity that is the non-human identity. So a non-human being that lives in the place that you are choosing for this exercise. Maybe it will be an animal, maybe it will be a plant, maybe it will be a river, an ecosystem, I don't know. There is no need to choose now. Just saying that we are going to enter into this new layer of identity, and you will have the opportunity to see what comes up. So there's no need to choose now. So again, and now I will really invite you to either take a step, a physical step to enter into this identity, or if you prefer to sit down, to make a gesture or something that marks this transition to a new layer. So I will take a step as well. So we can enter this new identity. And again, let's focus on our bodies. Breathing, focusing our attention to what we are feeling right now. And let's take some moments so that an identity of a non-human being can emerge. Maybe there's some non-human beings that are calling you, and there's an image or a sensation, a feeling that comes to you. So let us be chosen in a way by a non-human living being that is part of that area, bioregion, community. When you have it, this non-human being that is calling you, take a few moments to enter this identity. We are not role-playing, we are trying to become the identity. And let's feel it in our bodies first. So let's feel our bodies transforming. Maybe your body gets smaller, maybe it gets bigger. Maybe you move in a certain way, maybe you don't move. But you to feel in your body, what is it like to be this non-human being? Maybe there's a movement that comes with it. And if there's movement or feeling, we'll invite you to make it bigger, more intense, to amplify it in a way. Then maybe slow down. Slow down, slow the gesture, of the posture, or the feeling. Make it slower. Stay there for a while. And let maybe an awareness of something that is important to you. Let this awareness come up and emerge. And while you are still in this identity, let's gradually come back to this meeting. Maybe open your eyes or move or stretch a little bit if you need that, but you are still in that identity. And let's take a few more moments just to translate into human words what you were feeling in that non-human identity. And again, let's listen maybe to a couple of voices, and I invite the others to use the chat as a way to share what you want to share, whatever it is. Clara, and then Anai, I've seen in the chat your message.
I was a fish. There's just not supposed to be walls here. How am I supposed to get through? I just can't get through. That's it.
Thank you, fish. Anai.
I am a lake. My name is Lago Ranco. I'm a big lake. 13 islands are in me. And the biggest island is a Mapuche community. I see also very big houses of very rich people around. And at the same time, very little houses with very simple possibilities. And I am confused. The word is, I am confused. I don't understand how you work, how you do. And on one side, I am super receptive without judgment. And at the same time, I don't understand why so many Mapuche people transform into evangelic religion and why so big differences in you human beings.
Chat, we have a message. I need space. Is a tree speaking? See if there's last voice. I'm going to read another message from the chat. I'm trying hard to grow trees where they have cut into the land. We are gaining, but I hear the big trucks coming again to cut into the hillside. The trees will be cut down and burned. The small pond will be filled with the stone dust. Thank you. If there's any last voice. Yes, Michael. We cannot hear you.
It helps if I pull the microphone down. Thank you. I am going to describe a mountain that's not too far away from me. I live in Vienna. That is where iron ore is being extracted from this particular mountain. So I'll go through the exercise like I mentioned beginning with the empathy map. So what's the mountain thinking? Mountain is thinking.
Can you speak in first person?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
I
right.
am the mountain.
Yeah. I'm the mountain, of course. Yes. Don't you realize that I am supporting all kinds of life, and you keep extracting all of this stuff from me? And how do you expect me to manage everything else I need to do while you keep doing this? The next part would be, I feel really helpless because there's nothing I can do to stop them. I cannot stop them. And I'm kind of at my wit's end. How is the mountain being influenced apart from man taking out the iron ore? I get my cues from all this other life that has decided to make me their home. And I see that they don't find me to be a right habitat anymore. So how does the mountain deal with it? I make myself really tight because only when I'm able to make myself really tight is the only way that I can protect myself regardless of whatever they do, because I'm just really strong and I make myself very compact. And that's really all I could do. That was it.
Thank you very much. And there's another message from Swift. I fly all the way from Africa and there's nowhere to nest. I need somewhere to raise my young. I too need space. So, yeah, I know that we might listen to many more voices and I would really like to. And at the same time, I want to take care of time. So I will invite you to come back to our human identities and to our individual selves. So first of all, for those of you who are standing, let's take a huge step back and go back to our identities, or make a gesture that for you marks this transition. Go back to where you were at the beginning of the meeting. And maybe let's move a little bit. Let's shake our legs, our hands, so that we can fully come back to being ourselves today in this online meeting with those other people, with the transition practice project. Yes. Let's shake those identities off and come back to our original identity. Welcome back. Welcome back. Hope that you are all back, all feeling nice in your own skin. Hopefully. Okay, so we have done this exploration. We have listened to different perspectives. Before going on to the next steps, I would like to ask Dorothea if you're ready and willing. Maybe just do a sort of, just a short summary of what happened, and then we can go on and discuss and understand what happened, what not. How can we use this kind of activities?
Yeah, just in a moment. So yeah, we've been on a journey together, traveling from one field of identity to another, and we have been exploring the question of what are the priorities for addressing climate change and the ecological crisis in our environment, in our community, and what is especially dear to our art. We have been traveling from our individual self, and there we have heard many voices. Many of you have been speaking about a human feeling of belonging, protecting the land, helping people to find the courage to speak up, making space for more water, more tree, a life without fossil fuel, sharing well-being for all, and engaging with people and helping them, allowing them for sharing questions and stories. And governments to acknowledge that climate change does exist. Someone has also been speaking about being still, something very important for them at this very moment. Then we have been traveling into the body, into the space of someone that is very different than us. And here we have been finding voices of feeling powerless, wanting to care for your family, your business, your local economy, the standard of your life, what you have been building up from the very first day you came to this planet, through your job, through your house, your communities. And someone has also been finding this voice of how sometimes speaking about the sacredness of nature can be disrespectful to God. Then we have been journeying into society, and we have been searching for some voices inside there. We have very different voices here. Someone in society, we have the voice of, we don't need as much. We can also do with much less than what we think we need. But also some more voices connected to power. We cannot allow for people to reach, but to get so much power. And someone coming from inside our community that has been living in that community forever, that has been there for a very long time and feel like I belong here. I was here first, and this is my way of holding power. If I have to lose this power, I'd rather destroy all of this. Here we also have some voices that talk about the fear of the future, not knowing what to do about it. We see our politicians doing things worse, and maybe we just need someone stronger here to, let them know that they need to do a bit better. We also have the voice that says, hey, we live in a very beautiful place. We should be very able to share this together. And then we have been going into the bodies of very different non-human creatures. We have some fish, we have had some birds, some trees, and here there's voices that ask for more space. I can't get through all these walls. We keep trying to grow, but you keep cutting us down. Hey, I'm trying to provide for all the life on this planet. I'm home to so many different creatures, and I can't let you understand. I don't know what to do anymore to make you understand, yeah, that this is not okay. Oh, and someone is also flying from Africa and finds no nest where to stop.
Thank you. So as you see, there are many, many different voices. And the idea is that we'll now have some time in plenary before ending this session. The idea would be to reflect together, now that we have heard all those voices, all those different perspectives, including the mountains, the river, the fish, etc. How can we, what is different now when we think of the priorities for our community or our place? What is different now? And how can we include all those different perspectives in a decision for our communities and the places that we live in? So that would be the question for a reflection together. So let's see if you have, what is different for you now, thinking of your community, of your territory? So there is Michael, and I also encourage other people, maybe have not spoken yet, if you want to take the floor, please.
Yeah, please. I want to make sure it's inclusive, right?
Yeah, so Michael, maybe let's see if there's another person.
Sounds wonderful. Sure.
Okay, so Sophie and then Michael.
I actually have to say that I don't feel a difference. I'm sorry. I still feel personally more or less powerless. To change something. I guess the only thing that changed is yes, and actually I still feel very yeah, I think I will just stick to that. Because I went into the persona of the local authority, who's very powerful and not necessarily administratively correct, powerful. I don't know how to say it. And I would say what for me was really interesting was in the fourth impersonation. I don't know if you can say impersonation or not. That was space that was coming, although I know it's space, but yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm not replying, but I thought it was important for me to share because I'm a bit curious to hear what others maybe.
Yeah, thank you, Sophie. Yeah, it might be difficult to see how to include or how to change the ways that we decide collectively and how these kind of perspectives can have an influence.
Well, because what we did is what I personally do with people who are ready to do it. I mean, I'm not in that, I don't have the technique, etc., but it's a bit the process. But this process doesn't exist where the decisions are being taken. That's what, okay, so that's what I mean by what I said before.
No, thank you for saying that. I think that's maybe what is important to frame or clarify here is that, okay, we are trying out something, and the idea would be, or the intention maybe, would be to apply this kind of thinking, this kind of approaches in, for example, in participatory processes, for example, in the places where decisions are made. So of course, I completely see and thank you for bringing that, because it's not, I mean, it's not something that comes so easily. And yeah, maybe I can frame my question a bit differently. Maybe what would change, or how would you see this kind of approach working, for example, in a participatory process, or in a situation where decisions are made regarding climate change, or because yes, I completely see what you're saying, Sophie.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
No worries. It was super important. We have Renia and Karina, and was also Michael before. So
yeah, I just wanted to say that I feel very fortunate at this point in history to be living in North America and to actually be able to build on the kind of consciousness that our Indigenous leaders here, especially in Canada, are giving us, including a methodology called two-eyed seeing. It's part of the decolonization process that is being promoted. This is an excellent book that has become very famous in North America, called Braiding Sweetgrass by a botanist. Some of you know it, I'm sure. Robin Wall Kimmerer. It's become a great success. This, along with a course that I've been doing that's offered by the University of Western Ontario and is co-directed by two Indigenous women, have been really successful in an in-depth kind of approach to the kind of transformative thinking that this sort of exercise is designed for, because that's exactly the problem. You know, our minds have been conditioned to certain limited views and ways of approaching what we've been doing. So I say I'm fortunate because I can refer to this. So the statement that I'm writing for our municipal authorities about the clear cutting of this land on Wednesday, will be presented on Wednesday. I can draw on this. These are references that have become generally acknowledged. And with that in mind, also, any kind of formal institution in Canada now starts with a land acknowledgement about whose land we're actually on. So which particular tribes were here before us. And the reference there is to people who for 50,000 years managed to live sustainably on the land to protect the trees and so forth. So by bringing people back to that awareness, even in official and formal situations, they're kind of forced to listen, because the authority of Indigenous people has now been acknowledged widely. And as people of the settler community, like me, even though my ancestors have been here for a bit, it's not my authority to talk about this land. The authority really comes from the people who did manage to protect it all that time by having a regenerative economic relationship with it. So if that's useful for anybody in Europe to be able to refer to, then I highly recommend that. There's a lot of literature, there's a lot of resources out there now, and the kind of way our brain works and the necessity for changing the way that we see things based on our past conditioning as part of settler communities is something that we all have to grapple with. And I think we now have a lot more resources for doing that, thanks to our Indigenous neighbors.
Yeah, thank you, Enya. We have Karina, and then see there's a few messages in the chat, and then I think that we are going to the closing of this experience. Karina.
Thank you for the time. Thank you, Rainia, so much for the resources. I would really welcome. I'm looking forward to learn more and to gain basically knowledge on this. I have so many questions, but perhaps I suppose I'm interested to take this forward. I am part of the Just Transition Communities project in Scotland. We are running deliberative democratic processes as we speak with our communities. As part of the project, I have queried to my colleagues who are different partners who are working with these communities, very experienced partners and practitioners, years of experience. I have queried the question of how we can explore nature as another member of the community. And that has resulted in different responses, some of them being, well, how? And, you know, I, for instance, suggested, well, similar to this exercise, and this just came up as a exploratory thing, why we cannot have an empty chair whenever we meet the community, and whoever feels speaking on behalf of whatever part of nature it is in the community can come and sit and say things. I thought that was simple, but there was resistance, and no, that could alienate people. So basically what I'm trying to say is, I would like to find evidence. I would like to meet more people who think in that way, that allows me to provide a very strong proposal to this project I'm working with, and say, it's not only me who thinks. This is a wide range of experienced people and other examples. And I think so we can pilot it, this in the project I'm working on. So that's something that I have feel passion, and I've been trying to contact and collate a list of people who I can sit together and through lived experiences gather and answer many questions I have, different views basically. So that's
Yes, there are some resources that will be shared by Anahi that I've collected. Some of them are also projects that we are collaborating with, or experiences that there is the work that reconnects, that like is that huge body of practices and work, but that has some useful and interesting practices in this topic. I will briefly share the screen again just to show you a couple of things that might be useful. Again, I would like to point out this assembly, citizens assembly. So it is a participatory process that has the goal of providing recommendations to politicians on what to do. And again, I want to point out this assembly on the future, or on the health of the oceans. And in this case, deliberation included living system, the voice of the oceans, the current generations, and even future generation. That, of course, again, is voiceless, at least in human terms. There is also this other very interesting project that we are collaborating with. It is called Animals in the Room, and the idea is again how to get animals. In this case, they are specifically focused on animals. How can they have a seat at the table when decisions are made, etc. So of course, and there are then articles or other webinars, and you will find some references in the materials that Anahi will share. So of course, it's something that is starting to be done. And at the same time, personally, I find these intersection between participatory processes, deliberation, citizens' assemblies, all that kind of field, the intersection with deep ecology and this intention of having a different relationship with nature, etc. I find it extremely interesting and also hopefully promising. So yes, it's something that is happening and that at the same time is also an exploration. So we are a bit in this moment. So I think that we are almost at the end of this phase. Feel free to reach out, to keep in contact with us. And I guess that there will be materials shared by Anaï and the feedback form as well. So we are very open to also listen to your experiences and your thoughts. And yes, do keep in touch. And I will keep the floor to Anaï.
Thank you, Martina and Dorothea, and all for this deep experience. And that I'm not so accustomed to go so deep in a webinar space. So I really appreciate that you took the courage to really guide us there and with time to really feel it. Thank you for this. And yeah, as a practice, this, if you can share also, we will share a lot of the resources in the Practice and Transition webpage. You will have a follow-up email after this webinar with all this material, with the recording of the session and with the Zoom chat. So everything is there for all of us, okay? And as Martina was saying, we are also going to share places to keep in touch with them so you can explore more deeply. And in terms of practice, I believe this widening circles graphic that you share about the different identities is like the practice we did today. And in my perspective, there are different contexts in which we could use it differently. And perhaps in a municipality that is not so open to these kind of things, still we want inclusion. And we could maybe in the space create, as you were moving us in space, also create like to move people. Like if we stand in the position of this person that belongs to our community, what will be speaking in the third person, like what this person needs and what is this perspective. So we can play with this practice in very different ways according to the context. Sometimes more deep, sometimes not so much, sometimes in one language, others in like more playful way. So I think it's in our hands, the wisdom and the skillfulness on how to communicate according to the persons we are with. And I believe it's so important to include non-human voices and beings into our decision making.
And
so thanks for that.
Just saying just one last thing, that this is one practice, but there are many, many different ways. Karina was mentioning before, leaving an empty seat, for example. That is also another way that it could be done. You can do just a guided meditation, so that you can go into another identity and just come back and just saying, okay, this is what I saw or perceived. You can do much more deep or elaborate methodologies, such as, for example, the Council of All Beings. Maybe you're familiar with that. It comes from the work that it connects as well. So there are many, many different ways. And as you were saying, I completely agree. It is important to be able to adapt to the audience that we are in relationship with, and understand what is the best way to do that.
Yes. So I also share in the Zoom chat the next practice that is going to be held by Robert, that is living in Mexico originally from Sardinia, and he will bring a contribution that is in Spanish, and we were going to have English interpretations on local coins in communities and networks of prosumidores. I don't know how to say that in English. If someone can help me, prosumidores in English.
Proximities?
It's prosumer, I
It's-
think, production and consumer.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
it's a mix of word between the local productors and the people that buy. So we are in cycling economy somehow. And then in the inner transition circle, we're offering every last Friday of the month. And also on Thursday, we're exploring also this year with the Thursdays, a space of deep listening to all types of activism who nourish ourselves. It's very similar to the energy of this one, but it's not directed, it's more open, and it's us, not the identity of another being of the community. So you're super welcome to join this space. And also in the conflict resilience team, they are exploring peace building tools that are going to be shared. You have also the information there. So thanks for being here once again. Thanks for the openness, for the trust, for the honesty on the sharings, for going a bit out of the box, because it's not easy to be other identity that makes heart painful, like we feel the pain in the heart and the body. And thanks for the diversity of this space. When I listen to beings, people from many places of the globe, once again I bring hope, like hope is back to my system, that we can do it. Something is there. We are part of a global tribe, perceiving reality in similar ways. Yeah. Yes. So thanks so much, and sending you a big hug. May you be safe, and may your projects also thrive. Thank you, thank you. And if you want to open your mics and say goodbye in your mother tongue, you're super welcome.
Grazie.
Merci, thank you.
Goodbye.
Adiós, gracias.
Ciao a
Muchas
tutti, grazie.
gracias, hermana de Perú.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Adiós.
Chao, chao.
Ciao.
Bye.